Time pushes us a bit, and I want to return us back to the diaries, memoirs, memories in general. What was your feeling first day after leaving the offices? Could you comment your feeling, impressions, and some choices for the future? What could the ex-president could do in this life?
Tell you, the best description about the situation of former president gave Bill Clinton. When he told me once that to be former president, that's his combination, or that's his cocktail of liberation and frustration. What is very correct, because finally, after 10 years in this very difficult job, you are liberated. You can do what you want, you can sleep longer, you can meet some who or not, you can...
Did he tell you what the taste of that cocktail?
Especially Clinton. Yeah, especially Clinton. Well. No, but I think that is something what is true, that you are to some extent finally liberated. Why frustrated? Because you see what your successors are doing, and you are frustrated, because that is absolutely obvious. That we, in this job, we are much better, you know. No doubt. Well, that is something what is a point number one. Point number two, and that's I think is the opinion of all of us, this reorganization of life is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. In my opinion, it takes at least 2 years to find new balance of mental balance, then to find some new perspectives and to think not too much about your role as a president. Of course, one of forms of such therapy during 2 years is prepared diaries. Other form of the therapy is to traveling, to have lectures and meet people. That's my case. But frankly speaking, it's not easy, because you change your life fully. What doesn't change? That's what Valdas mentioned. You lost privacy still. You know? It's not so that you can return to more private life. What is a problem, and what I think we have to do, and that is why I'm very interested about this Valdas ideas to organize library in Kaunas here. The problem with new democracies, and Lithuania is a new democracy, Poland is a new democracy, and this is a big difference between Clinton and our group. In America, they have really standards what former presidents should do, how to organize the life of ex-presidents. How to use ex-presidents, for example, for some international mission. You know, Clinton is active in Haiti with Bush together. Others, Carter is very active in many places of the world. In the United States, even is so joke that Carter is the best former president in the history. Unfortunately, to be former president, it is necessary to be president. He wasn't so successful president during his time. But America has good pattern what to do with former president. Unfortunately, in our countries, that is absolutely still unknown. We don't know what to do with former presidents, how to use our experience, our contacts, our energy, our possibilities. And I think that is something what we have to make, because this former president, that is, first of all, the group of very few people. And really, if you see our experience, at least, that you can see that can be extremely important value in political life of our countries. And that is why I participate in the life of Polish political, on the Polish political scene, because I think that is something what is quite natural. Even if for some politicians or some political groups this is not very pleasant, that I'm criticizing some, etc., etc. But that is what we should do, to share our experience, to share our contacts, and to support good policy in our countries, because we reached too much as a president now to see how these achievements can be, how to say, demolished.
I don't believe that I could add much more what you just said, except from my own experience I can tell one thing. On the day I turned over my duties to the president of Lithuania, my first thought was, what I'm going to do tomorrow morning when I get up. but I can reassure you that that was unwarranted. I am just as busy, and that depends on the personality. If you want to be busy, you will be busy. I am working just like previously. Definitely, maybe I'm not coming in 8 o'clock in the morning to the office, but I am by 9, a little bit after 9, every day in a presidential office where I have my 2 rooms over there assigned. I'm getting every day 10, 15 letters from all over the country. I'm meeting with the delegations. Phones are ringing continuously. So I would say it this way: if you really want to contribute, share your experience, this is a great opportunity to do it, and I am doing it. But one advice is, don't try to offer your opinion. Don't try to criticize. And I believe there is some, unwritten rule. Don't say or try to express your opinion about the present president, who is after you. Then you can be...
And certainly the continuing writing of your diary. Is it a sort of promise for the audience and the publishing house about the volume of the ex-president diary in the future?
Look, the diary is just I would say that registering the facts for the historians like you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I suppose that it's a time to give a floor for our audience. I'm exactly one hour behind us, 20 minutes still for our questions. Will you help us with those?
Yes, of course, we have microphone here. Thank you very much for presidential level discussion. Thank you, Professor Aleksandravičius. It was very good. So we have time for some questions, about 20 minutes, and please start and introduce yourself, and let's try to arrange our conversation. Who wants to go first?
Do we have a microphone here?
Yes. Professor, could you help us to translate some difficult places?
Okay.
I'll try it in English.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself. Just introduce yourself, please.
Yes, Audris from Kaunas, and want to ask what you talk about culture, role in president life. What role plays, for example, religion in president life, when you are president and in your work, for example?
Please.
Does it play any role?
Your question is to both presidents, or to President Kwaśniewski or Adamkus?
Both.
Both.
You can start. He's the author, I'm only co-author. Well, I tell you, first of all, depends of the personality, because if someone who is a very religious man, I'm sure that the religion plays an extremely important role. If someone who is, like myself, non-believer, religion doesn't play such a role. Of course, in my political life, but that is a long story, maybe for my book, the 1 or 2 chapters I will write about the relationship with the church, with the Polish Catholic Church, because it was really extremely important part of my time, of my presidency. Remember that this period was connected with Polish Pope in the Vatican, so that is something what I can say for Polish politics was important factor during my presidency. And if you read my books, I don't know when, but if you will read it, then this element, the relations between the state, the president, and the Catholic Church in Poland would be one of interesting and very important. But of course, if someone who is a very religious man, religion, in my opinion, plays a role.
Let me respond in this way. I believe that religion in Lithuanian political life during the occupation was a strong force among the people. That's number one. Secondly, it played a very important role with the Chronica, which actually was distributed throughout the world so that the world knew about what's going on in Lithuania here. I believe that the church has played a very important role in it. And let me say this, really what I am really missing today, and I have spoken already many times with some of the leading Lithuanian church leaders here, I'm missing that kind of a role and which they played during the occupation time. Right now, I recognize the separation of church and state, but at the same time I consider church as a strong moral authority, and that's what we need today in Lithuania, and probably we could avoid a lot of problems which we are facing today.
If I would pour a drop of gasoline to this, I suppose that the experiences of Lithuania and Poland nowadays is very different. Participation of church in the political life and that heat achieved in Poland and some sort of calm climate in Lithuania. And, am I right in diagnosing this?
Of course, I cannot speak about Lithuania, but in Poland I think the situation is changing very much now. This is a long story, that's maybe not for a very short answer, but I think that is a real challenge today for the church, for Polish Catholic Church, is to redefine own position in Polish society and Polish political life now. Because everything what happened in the last 20 years is impossible to repeat again. The role of the church is decreasing. The Polish church has a problem with authority. After the Pope, after Wojtyła, it's not easy to find such recognizable leaders. So I think that the Polish church has a difficult time, but what I fully, as an even new believer, I fully agree with Valdas. In my opinion, that is the reason why I had a very good relation during my presidency with the church. I think in such society, with such history, with such deep religious heritage like Poland, we need the church as authority, and it means a lot. And if the church will lose this position, it could be the problem for all of us, because that is very difficult to find something instead, especially in this very wide social life. That is not enough to say, well, now our guide will be internet or Google or some television. That's absolutely wrong. So we need authorities, and we have a lack of authorities. And that is a real problem of civilization of 21st century.
More questions?
Yes, please.
Lady in the center. The microphone is close to us. And later, I saw one. You'll be there.
Labą dieną, aš esu Daina iš Vilniaus. Mano labai paprastas klausimas. Nesenai aš perskaičiau, kad Italijoje prezidentas gali būti asmuo, kuriam sukako 50 metų, ne jaunesnis. Man būtų klausimas, labai įdomu, vienam ekscelencijai kitam, kas tokio po 50 metų skyrėsi tas žmogus, kad po 50 metų negali būti prezidentas. Nejautamas, kodėl? Gal kokius savybių gauna? Ačiū.
Thank you. It's a very special question for our debate. You want to ask Mr. Adamkus to start, or?
No, let's put it this way, man. You were younger than I when you assumed your responsibilities. I mean, do you think, that helped you?
Well, I tell you, that's something what is extremely difficult question, and I have no one good answer for that. Because, first of all, if you see politics now in the world, you can observe that younger and younger people, they are the leaders of the country. I'm not unique example of young man who was elected as a president of quite, well, middle-sized country. Because Blair, who was elected 1 year after me, he is exactly in the same age. Even I tell you, we have a group of what I named 54. Because in Europe we had one time a lot of politicians born in 1954 and they were presidents at the same time. I was president of Poland, Yushchenko was president of Ukraine, Kocharian was president of Armenia, Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany, and of course it's not so good that the list is not so easy, because on our list is of course Batka Lukashenko, he's born in 54 as well. So what means that the politics today is younger as it was after Second World War with Adenauer in his age and so on. It's good or bad, difficult to say. I think that is connected with this pace of everything what is going with the world, which is totally different as 30 or 40 years ago. And today is absolutely important to be very energetic every day. And it means physically a lot of power. It means a lot of such potential, intellectual potential, physical potential. I think that is something what we can observe, but I see a lot of older politicians which started this career later and they were excellent. And my good friend Valdas is the best example of this more mature politician who was elected not in such young age. But frankly speaking, I don't see the good recipe. That depends of the situation and of the personalities. I know, frankly speaking, a lot of very good old politicians and very bad young politicians, but I know very good young politicians and very good old politicians as well. That depends of personalities. In sense of private life, that is much more complicated, frankly speaking, if you start your career earlier. Because, you know, in the age what I was a president, 40 to 50, you know, that is a time of some, you know, adventures. You know. If you are president, you are a man of responsibility. You are not a man of adventure. So that is much better for your marriage. That is much better for your wife, for your family. But maybe that is not so good for you personally because you lost a lot of opportunities. I see some misunderstandings among us. Okay, but no recipe, no good. You know, really, you are right. In Italy, the tradition is that the president, who is not very powerful in the system of Italy, the president really is an arbiter, is moderator, is arbiter. So today Napolitano is 85, I guess. Ciampi, who was his predecessor, was almost 90. Great people. They are fantastic politicians. But that is Italian tradition. In my opinion, it would be very difficult to make such tradition as a pattern for the world now.
My name is Krzysztof. I'm originally from Bydgoszcz, Western Poland, but at present from Vilnius. I would like to ask both presidents about one thing, because during your time when you were presidents, the differences between Lithuania and Poland were not emphasized. It was rather emphasized how we could cooperate, the opportunities. Right now the differences, I have the impression, are emphasized more. For example, the differences in our attitude in history, whether there was an occupation of Vilnius or not, whether what is Lithuania to be perceived as, from the Polish point of view, as a post-Soviet country or not, because this is also a thing where the official Lithuanian point of view and official Polish point of view are rather different. My question is whether we need a common point in this, or whether we can simply say, okay, our points of view are different, but we can go on in cooperating. This is my first thing. And the second thing is, I need your advice of both of you, Mr. Presidents, how to be a normal Pole in Lithuania. Of course, I speak Lithuanian because it is the state language of this country. I speak I honor the culture of Lithuania, but the other thing is that sometimes when you speak Polish in public, the people react in a very sensitive way. And my question is how to behave in order to reduce that sensitivity or oversensitivity, because of course I don't want to be here, let's say, an occupant. I don't share the view Vilno nasze, I share another view, Vilno moje. Moje, it is my beautiful town where I live, with the heritage of Lithuanians, of Poles, of Armenians, of Jews, of other nations which are here. But I would like to be a normal inhabitant of Vilnius of the Polish origin. And how to do it?
Please save our time, and my proposition is not to answer at once, because 2 other hands I saw here, 4, but imagine, only 4 minutes left for us. Lady, a young lady in front of us, and then 5.5 minutes. And then, okay, you'll have the time to put a question, but 1 question, please.
Okay. I'm Irina Lisonok, and I want to ask His Excellency Valdas Adamkus. Was it easier or harder to work in the second kadention, assuming that you already knew what it's like to being the president, but on the other hand, people were expecting more great jobs from you?
Maybe just start answering 2 questions we already got, and microphone here.
The first, no, I try to be as brief as possible. The first, I think you're different from Poland, from Bydgoszcz, from Vilnius. What you said, that is absolutely correct. That should be our approach. What you said about this moje Vilno, it means my Vilnius with all this international, multi-ethnic, multicultural heritage, that is absolutely correct, and we should continue this type of thinking. I think, I don't know what you are doing here, but you are speaking as ambassador of UNESCO, something like that. You know, it's so clever, so right approach. I tell you what happened last year. I think that's a result of, that's paradoxical result of our policy, I mean Adamkus and my policy, because we were very much concentrated on the great goals. Our goals was European Union, NATO, regional cooperation, the change of everything what was the result of the past. And of course we were able during this fighting for such great goals to not eliminate, but to control all these tensions, existing tensions, because history didn't change during these years. You know, debate about occupation of Vilnius was same 10 years ago and then 30 years ago. But for us, to compare this historical debate with our goals for the future was absolutely natural and obvious that we have to be concentrated on the future, not very much on the history. Now we are both countries in European Union and NATO. Now we have space to debate everything, including history. And of course that is okay, that is not a problem. Why? We have not to discuss the history. The problem is what kind of language we'll use. It will be the language of hatred or the language of understanding. It will be the situation of dialogue or monologues. And I think that is something what politicians should create in different ways. We need dialogue, we need exchange of opinion, we need debate about discussion, we need respect for our sensitivity, understanding that both sides they have sensitivity, and understanding even from Polish side that because we are a little bit bigger, we should be more flexible. We should understand that this sensitivity of our Lithuanian partners is more fragile. You know, okay, that is something what we politicians should propose as a framework of this debate, which is important, is necessary, but cannot replace our common work for better future. Cooperation, business, transport, etc., etc. And that is what I think the politicians should do. Sometimes they are not enough engaged in this job, and my proposal is to organize this dialogue. No more monologues, more dialogue, more cooperation, and more very, very deep mutual understanding and sensitivity.
I I believe I couldn't anything better just to state what you just said, so I am 100% with Alexander here on that issue. Now the second question by the lady about
two cadets.
the terms. Let me say it this way. I read the papers and all kinds of analogies of my 2 terms, and sometimes I wonder, I was there or I wasn't here somewhere outside, and without any knowledge what's going on around. I believe that both terms were constructive. This is something what I believe we have to just look at this. First term was definitely very much oriented about the big goals which the President Kwaśniewski just indicated. We had to establish ourselves over there within the international community. And definitely the emphasis was there. I had extremely good team. We worked, I would say, very constructively. We have accomplished our goals, and I definitely can say that this was a very, very intensive and very busy period of 5 years. Thank you very much for those people who worked with me for 10 years, and thank you for the Lithuanian people who really supported. Without them, we couldn't do that.
Those words even more difficult to allow to put last 2 questions, but we promised, and yes, please, 2 questions here in front of us.
Esu Justinas Karosas. Aš norėčiau praplėsti klausimą, kurį kėlė kolega Lietuvos Lenkas ir kurį kėlė taip pat prezidentas Kwaśniewskis. Turiu galvoj mūsų bendrą politinį Lietuvos politinės kultūros foną. Kaip jums atrodo, gerbėjai kolegos, kad vienas jūsų laisvamanis, socialdemokratas, kitas tikintis žmogus, liberalas, yra draugai. Kas čia per fenomenas? Ačiū.
Iškart paskutinis. The last question. Here, please, the microphone.
Maestra Moderita. I would like to ask a question about friendship also. During this discussion we have learned that you are really good friends. So my question would be very to the point. Which other states' presidents you could call your friends also?
I tell you, that's my experience for such meetings. The most dangerous is last question. And I think this question is really dangerous, because if we start to name our friends, that of course some who will be on the list and some who not, then want to do it. But I tell you, maybe it's easier to say from my perspective about the friends which are passed away. They are not with us now. In Lithuania, I had really the very close relationship with Egidijus Aleksandravičius. That was a time he was a president. I met him when he was a chairman of the Social Democratic Party. I was a chairman of such party in Poland.
Very close one. I can just respond the same way to him. But in general, I believe he and myself, we had definitely a lot of internationally good friends supporting us. We are continuing our good relations with them. If I have to single out, but not basis, on a daily work and responsibilities, but I have to go back, to my previous life, which I spent and established that personal relationship, so I can probably single out based on personality and on support of Lithuanian goals, and maybe because I knew him the very best, it's President Bush Jr. He's definitely understand and understood the Lithuanian cases, and I believe that just like I said, on a different classifications in a different period of time, I would single him out from overall international, acquaintances I had, during my 10 years.
Thank you. Dear Presidents, Excellencies, we are approaching our time, and on behalf of all the audience, I would like to thank you. And your talk was so promising for all of us. Promising, I mean the mood, the enthusiasm, and it makes us more convenient in those international relations too.
Thank you very much for all this also.